they have to withstand scrutiny just like anybody else trying to prove a case. Just like anybody else. Doesn't mean you don't believe them, but guess what? They have to stand up to scrutiny. You're going to see Garth Brooks go after this case, guns a-blazing. There's nothing in the complaint to corroborate what she's saying. This is just her word and her word alone. But what is evidence? People say all the time, well, there's no evidence against me. Well, somebody's talking against you. Oral testimony is a form of evidence, and pulled her into the next room and onto the bed where she could not escape his physical domination. Well, if that's true, he needs to go to prison. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm a celebrity. I'm a big name celebrity. Guess what you have to do if you're a celebrity? Protect yourself at every damn turn. Every turn. Every turn. Turn around, there's somebody wanting their hand in your pocket. Now, is this to say that Jane Roe, who is suing Garth Brooks for sexual assault, does that mean that she's not telling the truth? Not necessarily.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. You are a personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer, along with our content genius, Michael Rivers, the man behind the plan, the man behind the camera, the man in front of the camera, behind the microphone, and the man who is responsible for everything. Michael, do we have any merch left?
We have plenty,
where can you find
of
that?
merch.
Where can they find that?
They can go to clrbrucerivers.com.
All right, so you go to clrbrucerivers.com for our merch. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Garth Brooks and his friends that he found in the lowest of places. All right, that's a little cheesy, a little cringe. I actually just got a chill about how cringy that sounded. But notwithstanding that, before we get to that, this is brought to you by our loyal sponsor, eforms.com. eforms.com. Sit your grandma's downstairs, listening to a little bit of Garth Brooks and starting to really get turned on by the music, and she kind of goes a little bit nuts, and she breaks her hip. That's what happened to my grandma when she listens to Garth Brooks. Well, guess what? While she's in the hospital, she still has to manage her online presence, right? So she needs a power of attorney. Where would I get that? I would get that from eforms.com. eforms.com, you can get a power of attorney, bill of sale, rental agreement, any kind of legal form that you need. Go to eforms.com, because guess what it does? eforms.com, it protects you in court, out of court. If it's writing, you can't argue with the document. It also prevents you from having to hire a high-priced lawyer. So eforms.com, a very effective way to protect yourself in and out of court and to avoid the high cost of a lawyer. All right, so that's eforms.com. Don't forget to go there. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm a celebrity. I'm a big name celebrity. Guess what you have to do if you're fucking celebrity? Protect yourself at every goddamn turn. Every turn. Every turn. Turn around, there's somebody wanting their hand in your pocket. You turn this way, you got somebody with their hand in your pocket. Oh, by the way, you got another pocket? I'm going to put my hand in that one too. They're targets. They're absolute targets. Now, is this to say that Jane Roe, who is suing Garth Brooks for sexual assault, does that mean that she's not telling the truth? Not necessarily. Does it mean she is telling the truth? Not necessarily. But I will tell you this. All right, let's get into what the allegations are. The allegations are that this woman who worked for Garth Brooks in 2019 or 18, somewhere around that time period, did his hair and makeup. First started working for his wife, then started doing his hair and makeup, and he does the Harvey Weinstein thing, right? He just shows up out of the shower with an erection. Oh, look at this. You want to play with this? And I didn't realize this, but Garth Brooks supposedly is 6 foot, 300 pounds. I mean, he's a big dude. He's not a little guy. And this gal, she's 5 foot, 100 pounds, evidently. And one of the allegations is that he takes her by the ankles and he has intercourse with her upside down. I'm still trying to figure out from this complaint how the heck that looks and how that's possible. I have you upside down like this, whether you're facing me or away from me. How am I going to do that? I'm just having a little trouble visualizing how this works. but she continued to work for him. And then she moves to Mississippi, and then she continues to ask for money. Ask for a lot of money and health benefits, even though she's not working for him. So apparently this person, Jane Roe, and Jane Roe is not her real name. So prior to this complaint coming public, Garth Brooks had filed an injunction against her in Mississippi. And what he was looking for in that, a declaratory judgment that the defendant's allegation against him of sexual misconduct are untrue. Court's not going to grant him that. Compensatory damages caused by the defendant's intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, and false light in privacy of including incidental and consequential damages. Punitive damages in amount sufficient to deter similar future behavior. Preliminary and permanent injunctive relief prohibiting the defendant from continuing her extortion behavior and from further publicizing her false allegations against plaintiff. Plaintiff's reasonable attorney costs, prejudgment and post-judgment interest, such other relief as this court deems just. So, so with Garth Brooks, essentially, he's listed as John Doe or whatever he's listed as, and he's listed her as Jane Roe. That happens a lot of times in these civil suits. If she doesn't want to be named, out in the public, so we don't know her name. We only know that she filed her complaint as Jane Roe. And so he's seeking injunctive relief. That's basically a court order preventing somebody from doing something or, ordering them to do something. And in this case, stop spreading lies about me. Don't file anything more, blah, blah, blah. So soon after moving to Mississippi, defendant apparently encountered financial... Now, she's the defendant in this lawsuit. So this is Jane Roe. Soon after moving to Mississippi, defendant apparently encountered financial difficulties and asked plaintiff, Garth Brooks, for financial assistance. Plaintiff complied out of loyalty, friendship, and a desire to improve defendant's condition, but defendant's demands for financial assistance only increased, with the defendant ultimately asking plaintiff for a salaried employment and medical benefits. When plaintiff advised he could not agree to the defendant's demands for salaried employment and medical benefits, she responded with false allegations and outrageous allegations of sexual misconduct she claims occurred years ago. Which is kind of telling. Why wouldn't you go to the cops? Let's just start there. Oh, because he's a powerful person and I'm just a little old me. Okay, fair enough. But then you continue to work for him. Why is that? Because I needed the money and he's a powerful person and it's just little old me. Okay, fine. But you asked for money from him, right? Yeah? Well, and he didn't want to give it to you, yeah? Well, then it was after that you hurled these threats. Why did you wait all that time? Why did you wait 5 years? That's the problem I have with these kinds of lawsuits. They're tainted. They're tainted with the extortion smell. Does that seem right? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I mean.
Did you know that Garth Brooks is the #1 most selling solo artist with 157 million certified albums in the sales in the U.S.? He's the #1 solo artist.
So he's huge.
Yeah,
he's huge, and this, she's not getting them, and this appears to be clear from the paperwork. She asks for money, doesn't get it, and then sues him. These people are targets. How much would it cost him to have somebody there recording him or at least being a witness? You never should be alone with a woman if you're one of these kinds of celebrities, a woman that's not your spouse, right? I mean, almost impossible because of what might happen. We look at what the allegations are here. And they're spicy. They're really spicy. Looked up in horror as he walked out of the shower, naked with an erection, forces her hand onto him, basically. Brooks appallingly told Miss Rowe that he had fantasized about this moment and wanted her to perform oral on her so that he could relieve himself all over her face while she had her glasses on. It's not exactly what it says, but Miss Rowe could not believe that he had booked a hotel suite. I mean, with only one room. Tragically, her worst fears came true when seconds later he was towering over. I mean, this really reads like a bad novel, honestly. His 6-foot frame, almost 300 pounds, ready to pounce on Miss Rowe, who was less than 5 feet and 100 pounds. As she began to panic, he grabbed her hands and pulled her into the next room and onto the bed where she could not escape his physical domination. Well, if that's true, he needs to go to prison. But Brooks even held her small body upside down by her feet and penetrated her. Where? I mean, I just have a hard time with the mechanics of that.
So 300 versus 100 pounds lifting, maybe
But I mean, I just have a problem with the mechanics.
Yeah.
Just think about how that would work. I mean, I'm not saying that he wasn't strong enough to do that.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is, so if we look at this case, you know, I think we're going to see a Johnny Depp kind of situation here, honestly. I think we're going to see a situation where you got somebody like Garth Brooks who's going to stand up to her. One of the things you'd think there'd be all kinds of text messages between the two of them, right? You know, oh, I love you, baby. I want to do this. And then, but she apparently says that on one occasion, that Garth Brooks went in and erased all of her text messages, but not all of them. Other stuff. I mean, I'm not trying to be so sensationalistic about this, but it does kind of help to see what the allegations are. He openly talked about sexual subjects in front of Miss Rowe, including, for example, cunnilingus. Brooks regularly changed his clothing in front of Miss Rowe. You know, if you are doing a show and she's doing your hair and makeup, although I can't imagine she's doing his fucking hair because, number one, I don't think he's got a lot of hair, and number two, he always wears a hat. But you would think that there would be some of that going on if you're changing costumes and whatever. But in any event, regularly changed his clothing in front of Miss Rowe and often purposely exposed his genitals and buttocks to Miss Rowe, knowing that she would respond with a look of horror and disgust. Oh my God, there's an ass. There's a penis. Brooks repeated the sexual fantasy he said when he came out of the shower with an erection and forced her hand to his penis to Miss Rowe and forced her to listen to other sexual fantasies he had about her performing acts on him. But here's the thing that I think is interesting. Brooks sent Miss Rowe sexually explicit text messages and pressured her to engage in sexting with him. But then she says later in the complaint that not only did he delete those messages off of her phone, which is suspicious, but he also would contact her from other devices with other names. So that and then would tell her, I'm going to contact you under this name. It just seems so calculated. And so I don't have any evidence of what you're talking about because he destroyed it all, but it existed. That's what I have a problem with. Guess what? If you have the phone, you can get those text messages back. You can do forensics on those phones. And here's the other thing. A couple of the instances that she puts in here supposedly were witnessed by other people that are on his team. So if they witnessed it, certainly there'll be a witness for them, right? There's nothing in the complaint to corroborate what she's saying. This is just her word and her word alone. But what is evidence? People say all the time, well, there's no evidence against me. Well, somebody's talking against you. Oral testimony is a form of evidence, period. You don't always have to, and this is like a crim sex case, but it is a civil case. So the burden of proof is different in a civil case than a criminal case. Criminal case, what is it, class? Proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the highest proof in our system, right? But in a criminal case or a civil case, it is just a preponderance of the evidence. Slightly more true than not, like 50.01%. That's all they have to prove. You're gonna see Garth Brooks go after this case, guns a-blazing. You're gonna see it because they're gonna ask for her phone that she used. They're gonna ask for all kinds of other things. And guess what? If it's not available, if she somehow threw the phone away, which I bet that's going to happen, I bet you're going to see that not only will there's a thing called spoliation. If somebody throws evidence away, you can get an adverse inference instruction or some kind of sanctions against the person who's getting rid of the evidence, right? So in this particular case, you're going to have a situation where they are going to put her to her burden. And now, I hate these kinds of cases because there's just the timing just seems so suspicious. You know what I mean? I like Garth Brooks, but I don't like him so much that I would just say, oh, he would never do this, because who the fuck knows? Look at how crazy Diddy's crap is, you know? And so you kind of look at the timing of this, and that bothers me a little bit. And I think it should bother everybody. But anybody, whether they're a female victim of sexual assault, they have to withstand scrutiny just like anybody else trying to prove a case. Just like anybody else. Doesn't mean you don't believe them, but guess what? They have to stand up to scrutiny. This is a he said, she said case. And she says, okay, there's an incident they talk about a dildo with a shampoo bottle shaped like a dildo. And where they talk about it. And she was really disgusted by this comment that supposedly Garth Brooks made. But apparently he made this in front of his wife, in front of his manager or some other people on his staff. So that should be corroborated by her, right? Because that's what she says. And if nobody corroborates that, that's an issue. Why don't they corroborate it? Because they're on his payroll, because blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't have it both ways. You got, and her allegations do not have to be corroborated. I want to get that out there. She has to prove her case up, and however she does that to the satisfaction of a jury, it just has to be a preponderance of the evidence. So Garth Brooks has responded to this statement in basically saying that he's been hassled to no ends with threats, lies, and tragic tales of what my future would be if I did not write a check for many millions of dollars. It has been like having a loaded gun waved in my face. I like that statement. Because he's going to be able to prove that she's been trying to extort money from him for a long time. Why didn't she go to the cops? Why didn't she? And that's actually a weak argument, honestly, from his side. So if he's defending against allegations like this, why didn't you go to the police? Well, because I was really afraid of you, and I didn't want this to be public. But I wanted you to have to pay for the damage you've done. That's, people a lot of times don't want to come forward, but they do come forward. A lot of people do come forward. The problem that I have is the whole fucking timing of this thing. I have a problem with her trying to extort money, and I'd like to see the communication. We don't have the communications between them about the money on the front end of this. I'd like to see what those things are like. Because if those are just, look, I'm down and out, blah, 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 can you help me out? And he says, yeah. And all of a sudden she wants more money, which is what he's saying in his lawsuit against her. Well, and it's not enough. Is she saying, for what you did to me? Kind of like what Sarah Boone said, for everything you've done to me. You remember that? Which we'll get to her in a minute. But we're going to do a reaction to Sarah Boone testified, and so we'll do a reaction to that. So when you look at these lawsuits, she starts out kind of a little bit of a hole, in my opinion. She starts by asking for money, and that's not enough. So then she asks for more. She originally started working more for Garth Brooks because she was down and out on money. And so he hires her, and maybe he's a little off color. Maybe he is a little insensitive, and maybe he is trying to do whatever he's doing. I don't know about the sexual assault, and I'm not going to really comment on it. It's he said versus she said, and maybe she's got other things to document. Well, I was here at this time. I was here at this time. I remember this because this is what I was wearing, and I have his semen on my shirt. That's physical evidence. I mean, she doesn't have that. But I mean, if she did, that would be huge. But she doesn't. I guarantee you she doesn't, because it would be named in the lawsuit. And they would ask for his DNA, under a subpoena duces tecum. That's when you subpoena either a thing or you can subpoena documents. And so, this is going to be a long, drawn out civil lawsuit. And I hope the people who are her lawyers are ready for a battle. Seems like they're on Fifth Avenue in New York, so they're probably a pretty decent law firm. But and the creative writing that was implored in this complaint is without typos, so I'll give him that. But it's very creative and it's very invective. This is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that's embarrass and coerce money out of a celebrity. But when you're a celebrity, you are a target. I've represented athletes that were targets, especially these young guys that get a big contract. Guess who wants to get pregnant, and get $20,000 a month for child support? I mean, I've seen that happen to a client of mine, and it was just insane. So when you look at this lawsuit, you've got the number one selling artist of all time, worth about $400 million. That is huge. He's a target. And, this is all over the news. I mean, some of this stuff, almost, you can lift it right out of Harvey Weinstein's allegations. You've got the diddler. You've got the number one selling artist of all time, she's been working for this family since 99. So 10 years later, I've been fantasizing about this my whole life. I mean, I almost sounded like Homer Simpson there for a second. I mean, really? I mean, you're fantasizing about her. I'm not buying it yet. Maybe you've got some compelling story. And let me tell you what's going to happen is this woman's going to get on the stand. She's going to have some tears. She's going to start crying. And she's going to, they're going to take her deposition. Or she's not going to cry. Her demeanor on the stand will either win or lose this case. And you're going to see a fiery shitstorm coming from Garth Brooks' camp. I'd be shocked if you didn't. And they're gonna do. So when you have one of these lawsuits, one of the things you get is discovery. This is why I hate civil cases. Civil discovery is so arduous. It takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of effort to pull everything together. So there's a thing called interrogatories. Those are written questions. They got requests for admissions. Those are things that you have to answer, otherwise they're deemed admitted. You've got demand for the production of documents or things. And then you're going to have depositions. So, and then you could have more interrogatories. So those are written questions that you can pose to the other side that they have, and all that's done under oath. So if you think your client's lying, you better damn well make sure that you're not aiding and abetting lies under oath.
Yeah, I do have a question for you. So he probably has a stellar legal team, right? But she probably took it on a contingency, right, basis.
Well, she doesn't have any money.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So you've got a situation. That's a good point, Michael.
Yeah.
So you've got a situation where, okay, well, who's paying her legal bills? They take it on the come. In other words, you get a situation where they don't get paid unless she gets paid. Remember Paula Jones? Remember that case? She got $800,000 from Clinton's insurance. He had a fucking insurance policy against such things. Who knew? And her lawyers basically ate that all up because they billed hourly. And then once they got the money, they just ate it up, and she got almost nothing. So I would bet they're taking this on a percentage. So in other words, and it's probably 40, 50%. I guarantee you they're not going to do this for a third. I just would be shocked if that was the case. But Garth Brooks, on the other hand, he's defending this on an hourly basis and probably has a team, and those bills add up like nobody's business. So regardless, he's going to be going into his pocket to the tune of millions of dollars without question. So this has been our reaction to Garth Brooks facing criminal, well, it is criminal. I mean, he's facing a civil lawsuit, but the things that she alleges in the complaint are criminal in nature and, never been reported to the cops. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, look at Facebook. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Also, where do we get the merch, Michael?
Go to CLRBruceRivers.com. We've got all sorts of stuff you can see here on the screen, so go check it out.
All right, see you next time. Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That